This video presentation is made possible by Brewster Services Group.
Okay, I'm going to call the Loudon County Commission workshop to order for Monday, October 19, 2020 at 6:01. Going to make a couple changes on the agenda. The comments by the members of the general public will be right after Jim Jenkins gets done reading the zoning resolutions, and we're going to move Commissioner Brewster up right after the public comments. So, Jim Jenkins, step to the podium and tell us what you got on your mind.
Thank you. So the first one is a resolution amending the zoning map of Loudon County, Tennessee pursuant to Chapter 7, 13-7-105 of Tennessee Code Annotated to rezone from R1 Suburban Residential District to C2 General Commercial District, Loudon County Tax Map 15 Parcel 145.00 and the remaining portion of 146.00 located at 7077 Highway 11 East, Loudon County, Tennessee, situated in the 6th Legislative District.
Actually, that's the second.
It's in the second.
Make that correction.
On Commissioner Paintwork.
Okay.
It's in the second. So noted.
Okay, we'll move on, and that'll be on November 2nd.
Thank you. The next one, resolution amending the zoning map of Loudon County, Tennessee pursuant to Chapter 7, 13-7-105 Tennessee Code Annotated to rezone approximately 3.8 acres from A2 Rural Residential District to C2 General Commercial District, Loudon County Tax Map 027, a portion of parcel 138.00 located in the 3rd Legislative District.
Okay.
What's this one?
It's a little strip of land.
Oh, it's on 321 where the guy was wanting to do, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Add that November 2nd.
Thank you. The next one is a resolution to amend the Loudon County zoning resolution, Article 4, Section 4.082, minimum size pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 13-7-105. And there's some attachments that represent current.
That's the PUD.
Yes, sir.
75 acres.
There's some attachments that represent current and proposed language.
A minimum of 75 acres.
It would go to a minimum of 75 in each district that it's allowed, yes, sir.
And how did that, what was the vote on that in the planning commission?
I apologize, I don't have that. I think it's 9-1.
Hold on.
It was.
It was.
Third one.
Did you tell us last time too that the minimum on 75 acres that most places have a minimum of 75 acres, or have you
No,
found
ma'am.
that to be?
No, ma'am. A lot of the PUDs that we've seen are very small tracts of land, 7, 8 acre tracts for the most part.
In Loudon County.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
saying outside of Loudon
Outside,
County.
I'm not sure what they do. I'm sure a lot of jurisdictions may not even have PUDs.
Most
but I've
people
not
don't have
researched
PUDs.
outside of it. I know even previous administration discussed wanting to do away with PUDs and create new zoning districts. I do think there's a place for PUDs. I just don't know that it's 5 and 8 acre tracts of ground to create this type of development.
Okay.
Any other comments? November 2nd?
Yes, sir.
It's there.
And last, there's a resolution to amend the Loudon County zoning resolution, Article 4, Section, I'm on the wrong one, I apologize. Resolution adopted by Loudon County Commission closing a right-of-way near the intersection of Highway 70 and Highway 321. I think it was Williams Ferry Road.
It was. That old piece that goes to Miss Simpson's old property. It's in the 5th District out there, and it's not, I mean, it was abandoned when 321 was built. It's not been there for 50, 60 years. So some new owners have bought that property, and the old road bed cuts between it.
Yeah.
So they're just wanting to close it so they can make all that one piece of usable property.
And they own both sides?
They own it all, yes.
They're going to relay it out.
I'm just checking. Just checking.
So that's in the 5th District, Van?
Yes.
Okay, any other comments? November 2nd?
Thank you all for your time. Have a
I
good
want
evening.
to thank Jim. There's a new neighborhood going in on the back outside of Cedar Hills called The Grove. 68 lots. He's been awesome. Helping. We're working on it. Well, hopefully get some final approval tomorrow. You've been a rock star. Thank you.
See you on November 2nd.
Safe drive, Jim.
Safe drive. Okay, general public comments. 2 signed up. Rich Anklin, step to the podium, tell us what's on your mind.
Within the next 30 seconds.
Commissioner Duff gave me 45 minutes, I think. When I came to your previous meeting, I took you through a whole bunch of data. And I used sources of the Santec Operational Agreement PDF, the final Second Amendment PDF, and the summary that was put together by Kevin Stevens, the lawyer for solid waste. You got that as attachments to the minutes that you got previously. At that meeting, I told you about 7 or 8 different things: land uses, contract extension, minimum elevations, closure obligations, host closure responsibility, and host fee increase, generating $150,000. Since that meeting, Solid Waste Commission had a meeting right after yours, and they handed out a sheet that supposedly tells you how you get to $150,000, except that there's nothing on here that says that. You have to do the math. So, I did the math. You have this set of sheets in front of you. The first sheet says the analysis of the Solid Waste Commission Santec contract extension. The second is an estimated increase in host fees through contract extension. And the third sheet is one of the important sheets that fills back the data. It's 6 years, 2012 through 2017 of Santec's gross revenue. If you look at the 6 columns, it varies from 2.9 in 2015 all the way up to 4.1 in 2012. If you sum those numbers up, it's a total of $21 million in that 6-year period. Again, divided by 6, it's $3.6 million per year. So anybody that disputes how much money they're taking, this is their data. I got it directly from them. Out of that 3.6, they give us a portion. It's called host fee and security fee. Part of the discussion that they've been trying to get into the contract is an increase in the host fee from 3.75 to 5.5, which is a differential of 1.75. However, in the last 3 years, and even back further, the actual host fee is 3.96. So in the calculation on that sheet they handed out, they don't account for that, nor did they account for the 4 that they were given in the prior years. So I put together the front sheet of the 3 pages you've got, and I looked at the variables. Tons per year, tons per day, as I go across the top of this. Operational days, years capacity, host fee. There you'll see the 3.75, the 3.96, and the 5.5 that they're offering. Next to that is the combination of the host fee security fee. It's been as low as 9.1 and as high as 10.3, and that's in 2018-2020. Average 9.7. Average tipping fee from the data that they presented was $24.50 per ton. Now the county and the 2 cities are lower than that, and some people are higher than that, and that's where they come up with it. Again, the gross revenue in any particular year is a low of 2.9 to a high of 4.1, again, an average of 3.6. Or, in a particular year, our average would be 350. Now, all of that data in the second set of numbers that you go down as presented in this meeting where they come up with $114,000, $1,114,000, $1,006,000, and $2,000,000 is a direct multiplication on a lot of numbers that are included. Basically, the formula is and I wiped it out. It's tons per year times the tipping fee times the host fee less the $120,000 that they say that they're guaranteeing, which is $10,000 a month, times 18 or 15 or 12. And those numbers, 111620, are come directly off of their sheets. And I can verify those numbers. But it translates into an annual upcharge for the Solid Waste Commission of between $61,912 all the way up to $171, if you don't account for that 0.21% that they're already giving us. So what I'm saying to you is to get to the 150, Kevin said it's a range, and it is a range, from a low of 61 to a high of 171, including that 0.21, because they start at 3.75. However, I took that out. When you take that 0.21 out, it now is a low of 54 to a high of 159. So I can get to 150 that they're offering. But you have to understand this. The only way you're going to get there, 800 tons a day. 800 tons a day reduces the availability of the landfill from 18 years down to 12. And I have trouble with some of the data they put out. When they go the 1812, estimated number of years until the amended footprint reaches capacity. Remember I talked last time, what is the amended request? The amended request is taking it all the way up to 67. Somewhere in these documents that have been attached, it says, but we're only going to fill 51, which is 16 acres less. Why are we putting forth an amended contract that takes you all the way up to 67, unless you're planning on using it somewhere down the road? We're not going to get out of the landfill business, in my opinion, but we're not going to get 150,000 on the current numbers. The only way you're going to get there is to increase tons per day. So on one of these pages I wrote, this 150,000 is to pay for the soil that they want to use and borrow off the 120 acres that we bought. If you recall, 1.2 million cubic yards are required during this lifetime, and it's debatable whether that's per year or the full 12 years, which will leave at least a 20-foot hole across 60 acres, across that 120. And 1.2 million cubic yards, all you're getting back is about $1 million. I'd like to know from Eddie Simpson what he's paying for fill dirt. It's a hell of a lot more than $1. And we're not getting compensated for that. So when I talked to you last time, I had numerous concerns with this contract. The 150 is difficult to verify, but it can be reached. All you have to do is increase the volume. Pat is going to tell you back in the early years of the contract, the volume was over 800. It steadily fell to where sometime, what is it, about 550 now, Pat? I think so. And from the time that it fell back to that number, it's been 8 to 10 years. We have done nothing to bring that volume back up, which is part of an oxymoron because we have a requirement from the state to reduce by 25% the amount of landfill material that goes there. So on one side, you got the state telling you to go down. The other side, you're telling the landfill operator, bring it up so that we can generate more revenue. And box on the front page. Using the average revenue of 350 times 12 gets you 4.2 million over the next 12 years. If you add 12 years at 150, that's another 1.8, taking you up to $8 million. The last line is for 18 years, takes you up to 9. Why do we go to 9? Because 9 is the number that they keep telling you is going to be required for closure, post-closure cost. And it's based on $170,000 per acre across 51 acres. That's the other rub in this contract. Sandtech is supposed to be closing as they go. That's what the contract says. In multiple years, they have resisted doing that, including this contract extension. Right now, they want to only close 12.9 by 2027. 11, 8, 8.5, which gets them up to 41.6, don't get closed until 2034, 2035, 2038. That's at the end of this contract. Why are we allowing them to violate the contract and not close as you go? They're using $170,000 an acre for closure costs, but if you did it today, it's only $125,000. Let's go forward with closure. Their argument back to you is going to be, I have an elevation height of 1125. The closed cells or semi-closed cells that aren't really closed because they haven't got their final approval are sitting at 1075. That's 55 feet difference. That's a 5-story building if you wanted to bring that closed cells up to the height that they could be under the permit. But they have said, oh, we'll only take them to 1093. I'm sorry, folks. You've got fuzzy math going on here. They're including money they're already giving you in 150. They're not closing as they go and have refused to multiple times. We have another contract extension that gives them outward years. The host fee going to 5.5% isn't getting us there at the current volumes, nor will it until you get to 800. But we shouldn't be going to 800 because we don't want to close the thing faster than necessary. And the third or fourth rub to this is where the hell is Republic Service? They buy them. I got news for you. My stepson worked for them. They are a ruthless company. They buy out little guys like this. And Sandtech's not that little. They have operations in multiple states. They'll keep Sandtech on board for about 2 years, and then they're gone. And Republic will take over. And why is this important? The other little nugget in this contract is the 150-mile radius. 150-mile radius takes you 80 miles into Georgia, out to Bristol, and damn near to Nashville. But they said, we'll only bring you Tennessee trash from the state. If you go to Chattanooga or if you go to Bristol and you find a waste hauler, I'll guarantee you that they're crossing that state line every day. It's the only way they could make a big enough circle to make their contract worth it. And the other part of this is that Sandtech's hauling contract, both for Knoxville and for the village, are not included in the profits that I'm showing you here. They're making big bucks. This landfill is worth money. At $3.6 million, at 20% profit after everything's done, our share, their share of expenses, et cetera, to the state, is $750,000. 30%, it's $1,008,000. 40% is probably more like it, and you're somewhere around 1.4, 1.5. I don't think this contract should go forward for 2 reasons. You don't know what Republic's going to do when they come in and buy them, and there's too much fuzzy math in it. This contract's no better than the original contract, in my opinion, but that's up to y'all. Any questions? I just did when I got here. I just made them up today, Henry. It took me 8 hours.
Just made them up.
Made the numbers up today, or like made the document?
You made the chart up.
Charts up. The numbers are based on data.
I'm out there after.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of work here. Steve, what's your opinion? Will you review this with the Solid Waste Commission?
Sure. I'll go to the next meeting like I did the last meeting.
Please, come to the next meeting.
A couple of things, if I could just, I don't want to.
Go ahead.
Debate Richard over this.
We don't want that either.
We'd rather y'all did this at your next meeting. It's what we really
The
had to
intent
do.
of the percentage increase was to compensate the board for the property that we bought, which was about $1 million. Based on your numbers, at the end of the term, do we garner about $1 million revenue from that increase in percentage?
Depends on how many years and how many tons.
But are we close to $1 million?
Yes.
So essentially, we've hit our target of having Santec essentially pay for the land that we purchased, and we allow them to use the soil. Granted, it's not going to be the same thing when we get done, but part of what Santec has to provide us is a grading plan and a revegetation plan before they can take any soil. So in terms of the fuzzy math, it attains the goal that was set out by the board, negotiated by Larry Jameson. And I think from that standpoint, I agree it's not $150,000 a year, but that was not the target. The target was to get to about $1 million at the end of the term. In terms of how, where the garbage is going to come from, and what Republic is going to mean, I have no idea. We have a contract, says the waste is only supposed to come from within Tennessee. My experience is that if you have a contract and you're making money off of it, why would you want to jeopardize that contract by breaking the rules by doing something that's prohibited? Now, I can't know what Republic will do. Clearly, they're a huge player in the solid waste market. And, it's a very large unknown in terms of how they're going to be, working with us.
Steve, I have we're dealing with a new business that we're looking at a long-term contract with Republic. Has the Landfill Commission had the opportunity of sitting down with anyone from Republic to talk about these concerns?
We're not
Why
allowed
not?
to. We're not allowed
Because
to.
have we not gone through the Department of Justice investigation and
They're still in the
It's a done
middle.
deal. You can't really talk to them.
They're in the middle of the Department of Justice.
and that started what, in March?
And we don't know when they're going to be complete. And just because they're finished doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be more amenable to the contract changes. I mean, they might decide that, no, this is a bad deal, we can give you a better one. Or they might say, no, we don't, we're going to give you a poorer deal because, it's a small landfill.
Well, I would, in this situation, these companies, Santec and Republic, are in it to make money for their company.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line. So I would dare say that they probably, the interest and welfare of the people in Loudon County would be low on their list on when they say, well, let's do what's in the best interest of the folks from Loudon County. They deserve this. And that's not ever going to happen. And like I said, these contracts get so convoluted sometimes with everything that's put in it. People just give up and say, okay, we'll sign. Hindsight's always 20/20. I think when the county gave up regulating their own landfill was a huge mistake. Like I said, this contract that we have has not been in the best interest of the folks in Loudon County. And I'm terribly afraid that the new owner, Republic, like you said, we're just going to be a small speck in the great plan of theirs across the country as far as landfills and so forth they operate. Bringing garbage in from more than 100, like I said, there's just so many unknowns out there, I would not rely on them. And no, I do not want Kelly's spot on the board. This is one thing about being on the county commission that is frustrating, is that we have these agencies and people that we appoint to them and that we fund, and then come to find out, oh, by the way, county commission, you don't have any control whatsoever over solid waste and other things. Now, we can appoint the people, but, we don't have any control over that. So it becomes a little frustrating, and like I said, wouldn't ask those companies to become a pauper and work for nothing. I understand they want to make money,
But you do have control over my vote, because whatever this commission decides will be what my vote will be.
And anyhow, and I appreciate those folks that have worked. You guys, I know, do. I said I'd have to take some kind of medication before I went to one of these meetings looking at this, but it.
And it's been 5 years on this contract.
I just, and I know Kelly does, and I know you do. I'd like for y'all to go to those meetings and say, I'm not interested whether Republic likes it. I'm not interested in whether Santec likes it. I'm interested in taking care of the people that live in Loudon County. I'm not, if somebody said, we're going to sell this company, but don't you tell anybody about it. Well, that tells me right there that you've become an employee of that company. You have failed to share information with the people on the board that should have known that. Like I said, the board might say, well, you can just tell them, forget that. We're not interested in that or whatever. But, to get to the point where where our people, our Loudon County people, our solid waste board are told what they can and can't do. When Republic says, you can't do that, you can't tell anybody what we're going to do. Well, if you can't, then there's something wrong if you get to the point where they tell you can't let anybody know that they're going to be upset. And like I said, I wouldn't know. Richard's the one that spilled the beans as far as we go, but I just, work hard for the people of Loudon County, do what's in their best interest, and like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I wouldn't want your job, but like I said, I do think there could probably be some improvements, but it still does scare me that an outfit as big as Republic's going to take over. They're going to do what they want to do, and if they say, if you don't like it, take us to court, which is exactly, they probably, the people that drive their lawyers around make more than we could afford to spend if we went to court. I mean, there's going to be it's a no-win situation when it gets to that.
Republic's share per stock on the market was $94 about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I would say if they go in and they look at waste management and look at other and build up possibly to the number, well, I think this will make them the number 2 waste hauler in the country. But if they go in and if they bring more in, I think that $94 is going to increase quite a bit per share.
Clearly, the solid waste business can make a lot of money, and I think clearly large waste companies like Republic like to operate large landfills with large volumes of trash, so they have a lot of cash flow.
6.2, I believe, last year, 6.2 billion.
So, Loudon County at a maximum of 800 tons per day, we're not even a large landfill.
No.
You don't cross that territory till you're bigger than 1,000 tons a day. So
that's what I'm saying. In the eyes of these companies, we're not big enough to make a financial difference for them. So I'm just saying that to them sometimes it may not matter whether they adhere strictly to the letter of the contract.
Well, if they don't adhere to the letter of the contract, we have an opportunity to deal with their lawyers. lawyers, and I agree with you that they would be lawyered up like crazy.
Oh, yeah, we'd never beat them in court. They keep stringing it out till we run out of money.
Yeah. So if I can say a couple more things. One is that if y'all are not happy with the interlocal agreement, that's what governs the board in terms of who's on the board, how long the board stays, whether you can remove somebody on the board that you're not happy with. If y'all are not happy with that, I would encourage you to caucus amongst yourselves, decide what you want to change, probably work with the mayor, and see if you can get your other two stakeholders to agree with the changes. Clearly, if you're not happy with the basic agreement that allows the landfill to operate, I would encourage you to figure out what you want to do and try to enroll your colleagues to change it.
And this question doesn't have anything to do with what we talked about. Just out of curiosity, do you think that Republic or Santa, depending on, are they going to want to continue a landfill business in Loudon County once this one is filled, or will they look to either expand this one or to open a new one somewhere in Loudon County?
I don't know. Well, in terms of opening a new one in Loudon County, I wouldn't even want to speculate about that. If somebody did want to open a new landfill in Loudon County, one of the things that they would have to do is come before you folks under the Jackson law.
Do you think do you have...
In terms of the location of the landfill, I think Matlock Bend represents...
Crystal ball.
In terms of the landfill in the geographic area, I think Matlock Bend represents a good marketing potential for them. But I mean, you got Waste Management, which is the largest waste hauler in the country, right next door in Anderson County. So I mean, part of the challenge with the solid waste business in terms of this lack of the ability to get to 800 tons per day is because we're in a really competitive solid waste market.
Well, let me ask you another question. Sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can feel those mental... it's from me. I'll try not to ask any more questions. We'll just be done.
No, you need to ask questions.
Ask them.
People can stay.
Santec has a contract for Loudon County. Now, businesses within Loudon County can use other waste haulers, can't they? Or are we?
Yeah.
Well, you're getting choked up. Put a mask on that man.
Can they use our landfill, another business like Waste Management, if they collect Loudon County solid waste, can they take it to our landfill?
They can, but it's for Waste Management in particular, they haul it to Chestnut Ridge, which is their landfill in Anderson County.
But if they chose to, would they? It would be up to Santec as to what their tipping fee would be?
They'd have to negotiate that, But there's two other big players in the solid waste market in Knoxville. One's Waste Connections, which has their own landfills, and then also Waste Management. So you've got potentially almost the three biggest players for the landfill business, operating in this region. So, the landfill business from a salesman standpoint, it's a blood sport. I mean, it's the salesmen who are laying awake at night trying to figure out how they can snooker, the next business's garbage away from them. It's really competitive.
Well, it's a lucrative business.
It is.
It makes, and like I said, somebody's got to pay somebody to do something with it. So,
Steve, the other landfills that Santec operate, have we ever looked at the tipping fees of these other landfills? Are we high, low? Are they pretty well even across the board?
I think they're close. I mean, in terms of the solid waste market in East Tennessee in general, it's a competitive market. Now, one of the things that our original 10-year contract, where we had the ability by ourselves to set the tipping fee. The tipping fee started out at not quite $30 a ton and eventually went up to $35 a ton. And at that point in time, all the garbage was leaving to go elsewhere because the market forces were encouraging it to go to less cost. And at that point in time, we were losing money every month.
do you think Republic would be interested in buying Santec's landfill here without an extension to, what, we got 8 years left on the current contract? 7 years, would they consider buying it when?
I don't have a clue. Clearly this landfill, especially with the adjoining property that we own, I think is probably an opportunity for somebody in the landfill business to buy it. But if they did buy it, they'd want to turn it into a large landfill.
You got no control then.
And I don't think that's in the interest of, clearly it would solve some of our financial questions, but it wouldn't be something that, unless you wanted to have a large landfill operating right next to a really nice subdivision, I don't think it's not something I would suggest, but I think it's clearly something that somebody would probably talk to us about.
You're saying where the current landfill is
It's next to Tennessee National.
yeah, but you don't want to expand that, right? I was just wondering if they
We have land out there to expand.
Instead of us re-upping for additional years, just to figure out if they want to buy it for the 7 years left on the current contract and then look at it.
I don't, my guess is they wouldn't do that because they got a contract, they're making money.
Yeah.
And they just, I don't think they would do it. But I can't, that's
I
wild
was just
speculation.
thinking about Loudon County side of it to give us an opportunity for more than one option, more than one player.
Well-
In 7 years when, or before the contract's up, does the city of Loudon want to operate it? Can they operate it? Do we want to find somebody? Is there other, we got 7 years and they're wanting to expand it how many more? 8 more, so 15 years. And I understand Van likes the part about it, about them paying the closure bond regardless of anything else.
When you're done, I'm going to give mine, since we're here, I'll do mine.
Okay, go ahead.
I've sat here, Commissioner Mears, Commissioner Duff, I guess we've got the longest term doing this, and we've been here about this contract. I've had a problem with this old contract. Pat, Rich is a latecomer to it, but this contract was not a great contract when it was all said and done.
That's true.
Many things I saw wrong with it. So I and others, many others, have harped. This contract's terrible, fix the contract. We now have before us opportunity to fix the contract. There are a lot of really good things in there for us in the contract. Not the least of which is the bond. And of course, it's like anything else. It's an insurance thing, and you hope it's never going to happen. In fact, the bond company's betting it's not going to go bad, and we're betting it is. But every year, every mayor we've ever had has to sign this bond saying the taxpayers of Loudon County, not Lenore City, not Loudon City, the taxpayers of Loudon County will be responsible 100% for everything over there if something happens to the contractor. That goes away in this contract extension. If there was nothing else good in it, I would support this contract extension amendment, whatever you want to call it.
Let me ask you a question right there.
Sure.
So when they agreed to the bond, is that I'll not use my Latin, is that forever? Until the end of...
As long as it's there, they're going to be responsible for that landfill forever after this.
Until the contract is up.
No, they're responsible for post-closure in this, right?
After.
Not post...
They're responsible for closure.
Closure.
Solid Waste Board is responsible.
There you go. They're responsible for the closure. It's right here. The post-closure phase 1 is what I was reading on this, the host fee. But we're out from under the gun on that one.
Well, I want to get clear. So you're saying that they pay for the bond one time?
No, every year. $200,000 they're spending on this every year.
So what happens in 3 years? They say, well, we decided we're not going to sign up for the bond this year.
The contract says they have to for the remainder of the extension. I've heard you make this conversation before. Contracts are only as good as whoever stands behind them. They could say tomorrow, we're not going to give the county anything. That's a lot of maybes. I think Kelly said a minute, crystal ball stuff. Santec is not just going to violate their contract. If they do, it ceases. We can cease the contract. But this is a huge thing right here, monkey off our back.
They're not going to want publicity saying, hey, we're not paying the bond.
I don't have fear of Santec pulling out of this. Now, I'll tell you what I do not know, and the unknown to everybody is what happens with Republic. If we don't get anything done with Santec before Republic takes it over, you can bet your britches Republic's not going to come in and renegotiate with us on anything. They can, like you said, they can care less. They're big. They're coming in to fill up a landfill is what they're doing.
Well, with that being said, too, the one thing that we do have to remember, we have a contract that, like Van said, is not the best contract. It's not very good. So when Republic comes in and takes over, if we do nothing, we have to stand by that bad contract.
For 7 more years.
For seven more years. And that bothers me, and it's kind of like what Van said. There are good points. There are bad points. And right now, we are playing a little negotiating game trying to get all this done before Republic takes over completely.
Kelly sent us out some time ago. We're good, Richard. We're good. Kelly sent us out some time ago the little summary of what it was. And if you read it through there, you've got expansion of the maximum permitted space for them, contract extension for them, maximum constructed elevation for them, Santec's bonded closure obligation they have to do. For us, the bond will be for us. For us, the phased closure schedule changes. Post-closure phase 1 changes. Host fee, we get more money. You can debate all day, but it should depend how much trash goes in. Elimination of out-of-state waste, security fee, installation of the pressurized wheel wash. I mean, we're getting stuff out of it that they technically don't have to give us anything. They can say we're not doing anything. The biggest thing they're getting out of this is an additional amount of time on the contract, which in the big picture, since it looks like they're going to get bought out, probably this protects us more than going into Republic with the old contract.
That's true.
Well,
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
You said the bond would ensure closure.
I'm going to let Steve handle exactly the details of how all that works.
What I'm asking is, all right, it's been they closed it, it's been closed up, they paid for the closure. 10 years after the closure, part of it slides off the side of the landfill out there. Now, who is responsible for repairing that?
Solid Waste Commission with their money.
So the post-closure period lasts for, according to the TDEC regulations, a minimum of 30 years.
As long as
And I mean, it's good, the county, sorry, buddy, the county, and y'all for that matter, the county is going to be responsible for that landfill essentially forever at some level. I mean, I hate to say this, but you know, the idea is to have enough money in the bank to manage this post-closure period so that if you did have something fail, that you have money available to address it.
if you have a problem from that landfill that we're not going to speak of,
Right.
and they eat up all the money.
I'm just sitting here thinking about, it's closed, it's been closed, but then we have some type of major
Like
event,
Poplar Springs.
You wouldn't say that word out loud.
I said it.
Will there be enough money to repair?
We don't know, as long as attorneys don't go after all of it. to
Steve,
repair.
question. Let's say Republic purchases this landfill, and they go wild trying to buy quite a bit of additional, and their cash flow is very low. They have to go into reorganization. They put the landfill under an umbrella of their large scope, and then what if Republic, or this smaller portion of Republic, goes belly up? What would be the liability for them and the county at that time?
You're dreaming up a scenario that is probably could happen.
Very hypothetical.
But I can't answer
What if
something
the
like
meteor
that.
hits the landfill, blows garbage all over Loudon County?
Yeah, that'd be a
It's about as
mess.
simple.
That would be a mess.
That's the day before.
So if I could say a couple other things real quickly.
Sneak in and set them up.
Just a couple things, in terms of, one of the guiding comments that I got from Barry Baker a number of years ago sage advice, because he didn't give it to me as advice necessarily, it was more of a sage comment, was that the only thing Santec's interested in doing is making money for Santec. So, I mean, that's been one of my underlying remembrances as we've been going through all this stuff. You know, to the extent that we have an opportunity to change this contract that has some shortcomings, you know, I think the efforts that the board, and Larry Jameson in particular, have put towards addressing those issues, having Santec pay for closure, having a closure schedule, I think in my mind is really big. Having them pay for the bonding of the closure is big. Huge. And I think that you know, and the fact that at the end of all this, we end up with a lot of money in the bank, more than if we do nothing. I think to me, it's a much better situation for the county to be in. It's not perfect, but I think it's better. And you know, again, this negotiation was geared around addressing the shortcomings of the current contract, and I think we've done that pretty well in terms of, again, having Santec pay for closure, ending up with more money in the bank, and having the bond to cover the closure should Santec or Republic go belly up.
There's a thing in the medical field on prescription that says the doctor has decided that the risks of taking the medication outweigh the benefits of taking the medication outweigh the risks. This is kind of where this contract is, in my opinion. We're all giving opinions. This contract extension benefits outweigh the risks from what we're in right now, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Kelly, I don't want to monopolize whatever you were going to do as far as presenting to the...
I hope we're done.
We might be done here. We got Pat to go.
Right.
Thank you. You can tell you were a finance major. Pat Hunter?
Can I make one more question or statement? Man, what you're talking about on the bonding issue, had they closed as they go,
But they didn't, Richard.
They did?
Yeah.
So it don't matter. Hypotheticals don't matter.
The $8.6 million at $170,000 per acre on 51 decreases for every acre you close. So that when you get to the end of this is why I was making that big point. Get the darn things closed as you go. It reduces that amount of money.
But they didn't. So we can't back up and fix what hasn't been. We're going forward from here.
So what he's saying is they need to continue.
That's up to them. They'll work that out.
And the other thing is that they're willing to offer a percentage increase and tell you that it's worth somewhere between 61 and 171. Give me a guarantee of 150. And you get the $2.5 million you need to cover yourself.
Moving right along. Pat?
My name is Pat Hunter, and I too have concerns about the contract. First of all, I think I'd like to just follow up on what Mr. Anklin said about closing as you go. We have a contract currently. What we don't have is the Solid Waste Commission enforcing the contract. So if they can't enforce this contract, do you have confidence that they will enforce another contract? I don't. I made a records request to the mayor's office that went to Ms. Green. And after I saw the...
Wales.
Pardon?
Ms. Wales.
Oh, okay.
Got married.
Well, congratulations. I had a concern when I saw the part about the host fee, and it said Santec will increase the monthly host fee paid to LCSWDC from 4.75. That turned out to be a typo. It was 3.75, but as Mr. Anklin said, in reality, they have been giving more than that. So that difference shrinks. Of gross revenue to 5.5 of gross revenue from the landfill. This should result in increased revenue to LCSWDC of approximately $150,000 annually. This part that said should concerned me because it didn't say it will. We have a guarantee that it will. It said should. And my records request asked for the supporting documentation and calculations, the tonnage, proposed fees to achieve that. That's pretty simple. If they came up with this number, they should have a formula, a calculation, and instead they gave me another set of numbers that would take another explanation. So that didn't satisfy my records request. The other thing is, when you throw a number out there and say that, that should happen, I'd like to go back to our 2007 contract, which isn't the former contract, it is the current contract. And back when the contract was awarded, Santec made another promise. The promise was, if Santec is selected by LCSWDC as the successful proponent, our proposal will result on average in more than $450,000 per year in revenue, security and host fees being returned to LCSWDC during the life of the agreement. In addition, Santec will assume complete financial responsibility for all activities associated with construction, operation management. If that, just like the $150,000, had actually been included in the contract with actual verbiage that said not should or could or may, but you will, we would be looking at $9 million and we wouldn't be having this debate. Instead, we're back to should or could or may, and that's not acceptable. We want guarantees. The other thing that concerns me is the out-of-county waste. When this landfill was a farm and it was condemned way back then, the promise to the community was to take care of our needs and our waste. We are a growing community. We're going to see that in the census. We have been growing and growing and growing. That landfill should be for our use. We have industry, we have commercial, and we have growth. And what concerns me is that when you do have a giant coming into the county, the 150-mile radius within Tennessee is bothersome to me because that gives them a lot of potential. And this was supposed to take care of our needs, Coach, not Santec's needs or their profits, our needs. And that concerns me because I hear, well, we have a cap right now and it's 800 tons. Well, guess what? In 2011, they exceeded 800 tons per day. By my calculations, it was 922 tons. In 2012, it was 870 tons per day. In 2013, and I do have documentation for 2012 and 2013, and we'll be looking for the documentation for 2011 because my numbers show it and it has to be there. But the letter that should say that wasn't in the public packet. So in 2013, it was 923 tons per day. Well, we have a contract that says 800. Why do we have 870 or 922 or 923? Because this contract was not enforced. And if you have a group that doesn't enforce the contract, it should just scare the heck out of you that now we're going to be dealing with a bigger company with all sorts of lawyers. And I'm sorry, our lawyers just out of his league. My other concern is the tipping fees. I have a big concern when Santec raises the county, the stakeholders' tipping fee, but they leave theirs the same. Now, why's that? Why is it that we own the landfill, but we pay more than they do? Does anybody see a problem with that besides me? I do. Loudon County is currently paying $21.15. Now, they went up 2 pennies, but guess what? Theirs stayed at $20.53. When ours went up to $21.13, theirs was $19.29. When they went up on ours to $20.67, theirs was $19.43 per ton. Now, I'm sorry, but our Solid Waste Commission should be working for us. And these tipping fees, which we should control, not the landfill operator, it gives them this type of leverage that they can use. They're making profit by increasing the tonnage, and the only thing we get, we go in the hole a little bit deeper because we're not getting that percentage that we should be getting. Yeah, they should make a profit, but not at our expense. And that's the thing. If they're going to make $3 million and our Solid Waste Commission is making $300,000, it's time to make $450,000. And not quibble about may or should. You give us the difference. You should have given us the difference in 2007, but it wasn't written into the contract. So, those are my concerns. I don't think it's a good contract. And I'll be making a records request because with regards to the performance bond, there was a lot of back and forth discussion between the attorney and TDEC, and I want to see exactly what they said because I want to know if it's going to be for the entire area or just part of it, and then I want to see what guarantee there's going to be if they don't do it. We've had a problem enforcing the contract, and I worry about that. That is perhaps my biggest concern. And, like I said, I certainly don't begrudge a corporation making a profit, but it should never be at our expense. And I hope to hear from the county attorney with regards to my questions about the bidding, about the request for proposal. There was a discussion about that, and I have an email with regards to that issue. I don't want to talk too long, but at the time there was a concern, and Mr. Stevens, he mentioned that there was a Court of Appeals held specifically that the municipality's contract extension was not subject to the competitive bidding process because the municipality was not required to expend any money for the operation of the recycling center. This was an appellate case. What worries me is, he used that as an example, but we have expended money for the operation of the landfill. We bought $1 million worth of land for soil specifically for the landfill. We paid for a scale house. We pay yearly for an aerial of the landfill to tell us the airspace. So I don't think we're comparing apples with apples. We're comparing apples with oranges. And I'd like to see the stakeholders revisit the interlocal agreement, which puts the governing bodies in charge of the mechanism of the landfill rather than having an appointed group. This is just too important to ignore. Thank you.
Ms. Hunter, quick question. In all your research, how many times, if you can just recollect, how many times did you find that Santec was outside the contract?
That's my next project, and it's going to be numerous times. I mean, it's been about, of recent, it took 7 years to do something about the dirt on the road. And I went back and found the minutes where Mr. Jameson was saying, but we have a permit and we have a contract. Absolutely. It should have never happened. 7 years. And that's just one. I'll have a complete list for you before too awfully long.
Like to see them.
Buddy, did you ever hear back from Bob Bowman, or is he still working on it?
Yeah, he is. Of course, he's on fall break last week. He's been in Denver as well, and we've got several other things circulating. It's a matter of him getting to it. So he's got it on his desk, and I imagine the next few days we should have some sort of an answer.
Pat, while we're transitioning here, what are we going to do with that big hole after they take the dirt for the landfill?
I have no idea.
How big, what was the,
It's going to be 20 feet deep by how many acres, Kelly?
20 feet deep, was that right?
It's 20 feet deep, and it's 12, is it?
So what they do is up top there when we put the dirt field.
It's going to be a huge hole.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be our future landfill.
Will they do anything to mitigate other than just leaving us with a big hole?
Well, I'm sure they have plans for that big hole.
Vegetation or something.
I mean, and that's the other thing, a lot of, we have a lot of homes over there. We're talking about properties along the lake, and then we have a landfill by the lake. And I think some consideration needs to be given to the people who live there.
I think the landfill was there before they got here.
Well, it wasn't a big mountain like it is now, Van. You can see it from the...
But it was a landfill.
You can see it. Actually, it was a farm before it became a dump. And now it is a huge hill that you can
Okay,
see
we've
from
got
the
to wait
interstate.
for Bob to get back to us. Kelly, you done, Pat?
I am. I think I've covered everything. I just, I just want to emphasize that I think that we're trying to fast track this, and we really haven't looked at other options.
How long have you been working on it, Kelly?
5 years.
But there have never been any other options, Mr. Shaver. Never.
There has 7 more years of this one.
Well,
You don't like current
it's not my
contract.
fault
Don't
that
like
we entered
extension.
into a bad contract.
But we're getting something back, Pat. We're getting something better.
You're assuming...
You wanted this for 15
No, you're
years, Pat.
assuming
Here it is.
that
You
the
don't want it.
performance bond is going to be the answer, unless there's some weasel words or wiggle room, Mr. Shaver, and I'm sure there is. Thank you.
Kelly, you have anything to add to solid waste, or we beat this to death tonight?
I have one thing to add, which is I just asked that everybody go back and look at the information. When Buddy gets the information from Bob, go ahead and send that out. And what I will be looking for is a support from you, either yay, nay, about the contract, or hopefully you've had your questions answered, and there won't be any more questions, that you'll have, because I'm not necessarily knowing that I can get those answers quick enough.
Wait, just a minute. I've got
So if you do have questions between now and our next meeting,
Which is November 2nd.
yes, if you will shoot me an email or something.
Are we planning to have this on the agenda for a vote on November 2nd? Is that your goal?
Asking for.
Yeah, at least some kind of recommendation from you all, whether it's a yay or a nay.
So we're looking at doing nothing. We're looking at adopting the contract extension. That's kind of our 2 options.
I believe that's, at that point, that would be our...
Continue 7 more.
Loudon City got their proposal together.
And we could care less about Loudon City's proposal.
Well, they requested.
And I can tell you, when it gets a little closer time to our meeting, where they are on their proposal. proposal of
That'd be
looking.
between them solid waste. The worst possible option would be one of the stakeholders run the landfill.
And necessarily, we can, if we need to, we can put it off until the next.
Not necessarily. Alcoa does a great job for Maryville, Alcoa, and Blount County.
Kudos to Maryville, Blount County, and Alcoa.
So
We don't need to be running a landfill in Loudon County, any of us.
it's not it's not a death knell if somebody, other than the company runs it.
Yeah, but the first time people start pulling up, they ask for $5 to dump back trash. Your phone's blowing up, yours.
It's not a good thing.
I'll check.
All right, here's where we stand. So I can drive a truck out here of garbage in my pickup truck and go out there and dump it free?
No, sir. You'll pay big for it.
You pay the minimum.
So anyway,
Hey, you can go to the convenience center and dump it free.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's what I mean. I think they charge for even convenience centers, don't they? Yeah.
You talking about Blount County?
Blount County, they not? All right, I misconstrued.
Yeah, take yours to the convenience center at Greenback there, Bill. Take yours to the convenience center at
So our
Greenback.
options will be yay, nay, or we will wait and come back another month with more thoughts.
Is there any idea when Republican Santec is supposed to close the deal? Because that's our window.
No, we have asked that question, and we have asked that question every meeting.
your security clearance is not high enough.
That's true. And the answer that we've got is the last, what was it, Steve, the last quarter? Fourth quarter. Thank you, Richard, fourth quarter.
We're in the fourth quarter now.
I know.
We're getting a 2-minute warning.
Mr. Chairman, are we through on solid waste?
We are.
5-minute break, 5-minute break, please.
Okay.
We're going to meet here for workshops, if that's okay, all the time?
Yeah, we like workshops.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
I don't have a problem with that.
I've been fussing about these new holidays we have this year. Nobody's listening. July 5th, November 26th, December
Are we calling the meeting back to order?
24th, December 7th.
Excuse me, are we calling the meeting back to order?
And now the timer went off.
I don't know, use official time.
We're back in
We
session.
told him the official time.
Any further on the holidays or workshops?
Nope, everybody has a list there. They should be correct. They're not saying that we've not missed something. But to the best of my knowledge, they are correct.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll vote on it November 2nd. Susan Husky, tell me about this lease agreement for the court postage machine.
It's actually about a $20 savings per month. The price has gone down, a month. So I could request consideration and approval to move forward with the contract. And I actually have another one if you all would allow me to present it. It came in after the deadline for me to turn in my request.
Go ahead.
It is for a multi-year copy machine for the Loudon Library at $86.56 a month. At the end of the lease, which is probably 60 months, it does not say on here how long, it would be $1 buyout and then we would own the machine.
Who pays for that? The library board, Tracy?
Probably, you said Loudon, that's up fund. As a matter of fact, there's an amendment included in what the budget committee recommended for that purpose for Loudon.
All right, November 2nd, put them both on there.
Please, thank you.
You sent me the
Thank you.
stuff, Susan, for the second, the one you added, will you email me that one?
So she can put it on
Can you
the...
email me the one you
Yes,
added,
ma'am, I
please?
will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Next up is Gary
Somebody's
Whitfield.
been a mask and it's got a speaker in it so you can hear. That's a state thing, you'll have to contact.
Right, and I'm asking permission to write a letter or a resolution to the state to ask permission to do that.
Well, we have to do that on November 2nd.
Well, this is something that Jimmy...
Well, he can write the letter without us even taking the vote.
No, Jimmy Duncan talked about this several years ago, and then, of course, passing it down, that particular, it's hard with the cameras, it would take a resolution from this body sent to the state for that to happen. I don't care about, I'll write it up and present it if Commissioner so entertained.
For November 2nd?
That particular location, there's a
it's you.
a business there. There's a business there as well. It makes it relevant.
Okay. Write it up.
Oh, the Matthew Tinker Memorial Highway.
Memorial?
I thought that's when we named somebody when they was dead.
Write it up. We'll put it on November 2nd.
Thank you.
Is that what it was?
Tracy Blair, take us through the budget amendments.
That's the only thing that the Budget Committee recommended are budget amendments in several different funds, and I will distribute them to members of the commission who are not on the Budget Committee right now. There will be one that you are not receiving this evening. It's in Fund 171, an increase of $12,000 for local community center. Hey. I'm so sorry. I'm so used to you being on the Budget Committee.
David, sorry, he just left early to go walk the dog.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry about that.
Bulldogs are in there.
Also, in County General Fund, there was a revision. You'll see a $40,000 increase there during the Budget Committee. It changed to $30,000 in the Sheriff's Department. There will have to be a revision in Fund 116. So all of that will be forwarded in your packets. I'll get the corrected amounts to Tammy. Those amendments, along with statutory bonds for the property assessor and the sessions clerk, which that's on the workshop agenda under my name. That's what will be on Commission's agenda.
It'll be on there November 2nd.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we don't.
You can't make a motion tonight.
Okay, just a suggestion that they have to take all the commissioners out to eat one night for supper if those bonds are approved.
I don't think that'll happen. Okay, Tracy, done?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I think a couple of those items we might ought to hit tonight and not have to do it then. $30,000 for another police car, another detective's car.
Yep.
Extra $12,000 on the Gary Whitfield Memorial Clubhouse down in the Deep Woods down there. That takes that up to $62,000 now.
What's the 30,000? What fund's 30,000 coming out of for that other vehicle?
The Sheriff's Department budget. Do you
General
remember?
fund.
Yeah, out of County General. That was something that was requested in the regular budgeting process that was not included.
There was something else.
They're the ones in the recycling center.
Yes. Chris has got $426,000 that he can buy his stuff for the recycling center. BOE flew right through, yeah.
All right.
I tried to vote it down and Tracy wouldn't let us. The raises are in there. How much? 510?
$500,000.
$510,000. Just
Come on down. That's okay. If you divide it by two.
Well deserved.
I wish we could pay every county employee $1 million.
We can. Just it takes 6 votes.
Okay, any other comments from the commission?
Were you going to lobby on the property tax next year? Was that tonight or is that later?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I bet she has it on camera.
No further comments. We'll adjourn the county commission workshop.
All right.
Thank you, Chairman.
Not bad. Hour and 20.
This video presentation is made possible by Brewster Services Group.